Okay, yeah, Mateo, can you please introduce yourself for people that might not know who you are, and please tell us a little bit more about the Spaghetti Eat Nation?
Right. So my name is Matteo Tambussi. I tumbled down the rabbit hole in 2018 with LivePeer. With Chris Hobcroft, we launched the first community channel of LivePeer in Berlin near Cottbussertor, and we did that for almost a year. And then I started basically covering live streams for the Ethereum Foundation, DevCon, DAppCon, and some meetups that happen in Berlin within the Ethereum Magicians, Ethereum Foundation ecosystem. I organized ETH Turin in 2020. I worked with Remix on an um, educational program called Ethereum 4, which addressed vertical audiences, meaning audiences of same professional coming from the same industry, like all label managers, lawyers, healthcare administrators. And we are still doing that. We have a grant on Gitcoin. Maybe I'll show you later the link. And I've organized Spaghetti. Spaghetti was a way to get the Italian community down in one place and start to talk among each other and to each other on building stuff together, not just having DeFi-oriented meetups, stuff like that. The whole thing started at ITCC Paris last year, and me and Maria Maganes, who's the co-organizer of the event, we were basically addressed by Stephen Gilbert from the Ethereum Foundation, who was asking, there are Italians working everywhere in the ecosystem, but there's no such thing as an Italian community yet, or just a framework, operative framework, executive framework, not just blogs or stuff like that. So we decided to put together an event. And disclaimer: if you never organized an event, it's very serious job. So don't take it too easily. It can be very stressful and leading to burnout. But we did it, and it was a lot of fun. It was great to see so many speakers from all over the world joining us. And also the size of the event was a bit smaller. We just came from Dev Connect Amsterdam, where you would meet, like, I don't know how many people there was, like maybe 10,000, 15,000 could be. And you would bump into each other for a few seconds and never had the chance to deepen the conversations over a few days. We did something more homey, and I think that was appreciated as an alternative to what, of course, runs very smoothly in these bigger conferences. So I'll start by sharing a presentation that I have for these. And also thanks, MetaFest, for having me again. I really love to be doing stuff with you all the times. Can you see it? Can you give me a confirmation?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, perfect. So, Spaghetti Nation. First of all, I would love to catch back from my last talk here at MetaFest. Last time we talked about ETH Local, which is another project that I've been carrying on with Fanny Lakubai. But the premises are and the concept is mostly the same. Think ethereally, but try to act locally. And in last talk, what I've shown was like a way to address public goods on a sort of synergic level. We try to talk about things that are good for everyone, but there are public goods that can be addressed on a global scale, like open source technology and incentives related to it. But also when we talk about other public goods, we have to address them locally, because cities might have similar agendas in terms of what's needed the most, in terms of if they are polluted cities, so they need maybe more clean air, or if they have very industrial heritage. They might need ways to reevaluate the abandoned buildings, things like that. So, and basically, what's Spaghetti? Spaghetti, first of all, is a early conference and hackathon that we run on we will run every year, starting this year. We might have some smaller happenings midterm that maybe tackle more university students and therefore have more of an educational call to them. Spaghetti is also aiming to create a framework to do quadratic funding of Italian public goods which are powered by Web3. There will be a map of the projects running in Italy, and of course we will try to put up educational contents for to have broader adoption of. It doesn't necessarily have to be Web3 or crypto, but behind that there's a mindset. And also we like when you're talking Web3 to someone who never heard of it, and maybe they come up with some parallel thinking. You stimulate people to think in a different way. Decentralization is not just online, can be also in real life, and that's a good practice to always keep working. So a few snapshots from Spaghetti. We were very lucky because we had a very nice location, which is a hostel. So basically we squatted the hostel. Of course we paid, so it wasn't a proper squatting, but we just rented the whole thing. We let developers, builders to book the rooms and be there for 72 hours. Actually, we don't have a picture of the main stage, which was very, very nice with all these solar punk hedera ivies and plants. This was the workshop room. It was really fun. So why Spaghetti? Well, everyone started to ask, why didn't you do if Milan? Why didn't you do if Italy or something like that? Why Spaghetti? Why Spaghetti? Why Spaghetti? So Spaghetti is actually, spaghetti are a common trait of our culture. Me and Maria, we thought, first of all, let's try to find a less pretentious name, because me and Maria share this this love for comedy and just not taking things so seriously. But deep inside, spaghetti actually is a declination of culture. Spaghetti in Italy, we have different recipes that are declined to regional ways of doing them, and regional sauces, open sauces somehow. And also this allows us to migrate spaghetti basically everywhere in Italy without having to rebranding it. We did it in Milan this year. Next year might be Bologna, or might be Turin, might be Bari in Puglia, might be in Calabria, might be in Sicily, in Sardinia, who knows, or in Rome, I don't know. We will decide in a couple of months, but this is the concept that we want to do, like it's itinerating crypto circus, rioting very, very nice places, and having people meeting and building over 3 days of conference and hackathon. Also, spaghetti are our best scarcity reminder. Italian culture is 60-70% built on a history of scarcity and coping with scarcity. Most of Italian recipes come from leftovers, or just the empty fridge rules that gives you constraints. Whenever you have scarcity, that means that you have a few selected paths that you can work with, and you have to put you're not spoiled with solutions, so you have to make with what you have. This is I like to work with scarcity. As a musician, I also love to record, and with tape machines, because they have limited options, and also they need me to do a good take. I cannot digitally edit what I'm been recording. And also this improves me as a performer, as a so I think that in general constraints are guidelines for solutions. So also spaghetti is a reminder, is a claim that is from the coding world, which is usually addressed to as undocumented, unstructured, illogical coding, usually not using procedural and functional calls, and written in like one big blurb. So something that, sorry, I have flies all over my. So this is the big blurb that we were referring about. Another way of thinking of spaghetti code is code which is tangling different concerns. So this is exactly what we were inspired by when calling our Hackfest spaghetti. So spaghetti was all about public goods. We tried to give these meeting this public good agenda for several reasons. First of all, as I said, we have public goods which are globally defined, like open source and retroactive public goods for repositories and projects and contributors, etc. And also in the scientific world, peer reviewing, for example. And there are public goods that are locally defined. An example is Germany and Italy. Germany has a more solid welfare state than Italy has. So, cultural associations, NGOs, Verein of different sorts can somehow count on the help of the state for their programs. This is something that happens a little bit less in Italy. And this is the reason why we have such a big volunteering movement. We have so many activists and volunteers, associations, things like that in Italy that try to replane the absence of the state in certain fields. And volunteering is a field that I think Web3 could explore more, just keeping helping this system to be more performative, to have incentives, and also to keep track of what everyone contributes in terms of time and resources. Also, most of the projects joining conferences, most of the builders have their own verticals. Everyone is interested into, some people are interested into DeFi, some people are interested into play to earn, some people are interested into regen and or other tokenomics, etc. And sometimes interoperability happens. So you might actually, make your dApp interoperable with other dApps, contracts, etc. But this is not quite what public goods are about. Public goods are actually sort of soft layers that everyone in the ecosystem can benefit from online or offline, because maybe by having that public good implemented, you can possibly create calls to actions on a local basis, for example. Quoting Audrey Tang, Minister of Digital Innovation in Taiwan, Spaghetti was our Genesis community printed in this system, and wanted to be a coordination framework for a specific sustainability development goal, which is the one that Audrey Tang often pings people about, which is the number 17, which is partnerships for objectives. So our vision as a post-hackathon, post-event, is to promote local Ethereum groups and communities and dev shops, for what is worth. We would like to see more, probably less meetups and more dev shops, like gatherings of hackers and builders and innovators and business analysts from the same city who have an understanding of, in real life, same problems, who can also decide to, go out, hang out for some leisure time, for a beer, something like that. So we want to promote these groups. We want also to incentivize these groups to sort of get out of the bubble and establish connections with other projects that have an impact on the territory. I'm thinking about these regenerative programs that are popping out in many cities, also in terms of urban gardening. And of course, maybe start some R&D paths and maybe education formats. What we want to do also is to create and run a proper format in Italian, which can be for education and coordination of developers for public goods in Italy. And also something that we're looking into is to create funding mechanisms for these groups and their projects. It's a common house that we want to build where we can coordinate different communities. As today, we have ETH Turin, Web3 Milan, Urbe.it, which is Rome. I know there is ETH Venice coming out. I know that there are other dev shops and communities around Italy, maybe not yet. They haven't poked us yet, but I'm sure they will in time, or we will actively look for them. Something that we want to make clear is that this framework has no intention to be a top-down policymaker, or everyone for what concerns us, everyone in Italy is free to work on their own verticals, on their own stack, even in whatever blockchain, sidechain, L2 rollup they feel like working on. We don't address people anywhere. What we do is considering projects that have respect certain criteria when, for example, we run funding rounds. Also, something that we want to provide is support with organizing events, promoting them, and also networking organizers to dApps and other projects in the Ethereum ecosystem at global level. And again, of course, making sure that these groups receive adequate funding for their expenses. Right. We will also be working on implementing our website in a series of ways. First of all, we will create a map, or an interactive map of communities where you can basically hover around Italy, and you will see each area lighting up and showing you which group is active in that area and what mission they have. And I'm talking about the community page here. So, their blogs, their project list, their calendars, if they have events going on, and also their group, their chats, Telegram, Discord, whatever. We aim at putting out a newsletter on a fortnightly, maybe monthly basis, something like week in Ethereum thing, of course, less relevant content, but still, I think it's good to send the news of what we are doing at this local level. And also something that we are looking into is to create a podcast, which will run on a monthly basis. And every episode will feature one of the different local projects and their vertical, their lead. And maybe we will try to get in some mentors who can maybe debunk, troll them, or maybe give them the right way to address certain criticalities. The governance, yeah, we will have a governance system at Spaghetti level because there has to be a little bit of direction. We are thinking of creating our own version of POAP. POAP is a POAP, which is proof of attendance protocol, is a great tool, in my opinion. It helps so many events to, have a way to keep track of their attendance, either virtual or physical. It's also somehow not centralized, but it's permissioned. Most POAP contracts are very permissioned, so you cannot really play around with them so much. So what we wanted to do is to try create a non-transferable proof of attendance token, and maybe explore the soulbond tokens, and having each group having a soulbond tokens faucet to their communities to be able to sort of green list them into the wider Spaghetti framework. Yeah, the granting part. I don't know if you heard this thing, but in Prague, something very interesting happened, run by, I think, Althea, Monet, and Fini from the Ethereum Foundation. They had a very nice desk where they basically ran quadratic funding for ETH Prague, which was all about local projects. It was a very interesting way of exploring quadratic funding because everything had a local impact, either in Prague or in Czech Republic. And I'm really happy they sort of troubleshoot that, so that maybe next time we can do it with a little bit of user feedback from this experience. I would suggest everyone to have a look at this awesome DApp at quadraticfunding.ethprague.com. Yeah, so we will hunt for matching pools at a certain point, maybe from the EF, from Gitcoins, or we'll maybe look for enlightened sponsors who want to support a public good cause. And of course, only Spaghetti Nation anti-Pope members will be able to create grants, meaning people of local groups. And we will likely implement that at subdomain quadraticfunding.spaghetti.com. Right. So that is everything from me. Something that I can maybe, I forgot to ping people on, is that this is the Ethereum 4 workshop grant. This is a project that I still do about vertical education. It's been really interesting because we managed to work with Amnesty International, Médecins Sans Frontières, Warner Music, Music Tech Deutschland, Legal Hackers, Radical Exchange France, and other NGOs from Canada and France. We want to keep that going. And also somehow these intersects with Spaghetti because the format that we established here in this Ethereum 4 project will be possibly run for Spaghetti at a certain point. That was my contribution. I can maybe stop sharing, and if there are any questions, I'm very happy to take them.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Matteo. I think that I really like the build out for individual communities where the communities have their pages that kind of spawn up, and it's kind of controlled through these non-transferable popes. I think the POAP system, as you mentioned, is really great because it's like a record of where you've done. having them transferable is a little bit funny because it's like there's someone else there. So I think using that as kind of like membership is a good way to protect against civil resistance and like proof of personhood. You also mentioned ETH Prague, which their theme was solar punk this year, so very forward, regenerative thinking. I love what you're doing too with Spaghetti Nation and the vertical um, education. Um, can you talk a little bit more about what vertical education means? Is that like direct education to people, or what does that mean?
Okay, so it's a format. So Remix IDE had this thing in their bucket list for some time, which was called already Ethereum 4. In 2021, I was called up by the Milan Digital Week, and they wanted to have a workshop on Web3. So I knew that Jan, Rob, and the people from Remix had this thing. So I said, why don't we do it together? And basically, that was the first of many workshops that we gave to many traditional organizations, either profit or not profit. So the way it works is like this. We scrap tech communities, which can be healthcare and technology, which can be activism and technology. We kind of look into those communities to see if there are so-called ambassadors, people from that community, maybe a doctor who's quite skilled into peer-to-peer, or into trans-hospital communications, things like that. And with this person, with this professional, we build the workshop. And we build this workshop around a use case. For example, the one that we did for healthcare administrators was all around patient-centric data. So the fact that when you go into a hospital and they do stuff to you, etc., and they take your samples, blah, 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 etc., sometimes they use this data for what is called clinical trials. So lab documentation, maybe some pharmaceutical companies are also tampering this data. So you as a patient, you don't have an income from those data. Those are data that you give for free to some extent. So the concept of patient-centric medicine is not something that comes from decentralization. It's something that comes from the medical world.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one vertical that we wanted to address. So we created a sort of medical registries where you can organize in consortia of patients, and you can allow certain doctors to see your history, and you can also allow third parties to see your exams by paying a little fee to you. And also another vertical that connected to that was the fact that during the pandemic, I don't know if you heard, there were some ransomware attacks happening in some German hospitals, I think. Basically, just ransomwares being sent through an email, someone's open it, and that encrypts the whole hospital database, making the data unreadable. So you don't know who has what, who has to go which surgery. So that actually caused some people death in the end. And so by connecting that one and that one, we also showed what IPFS, decentralized storage, is about, how to create gateways on IPFS. That could be a healthcare gateway on IPFS to connect like a smaller group of hospitals that maybe live in the same region and operate in the same region. So this is the way we go. We have an ambassador coming in. We work with this person over a few weeks, try to make a workshop that has sense. So we don't just shield NFTs or tokenomics or tokens for free. We guide these administrative people from that field through a use case and a demo. And by the end, these people who just heard about NFTs and crypto, they have actually installed MetaMask, sent Ether, signed transactions, voted on a DAO, stuff like that. So it's very exciting to see. Usually at the end of the workshop, these people like being, wow,
a medical device for bioinformatics, so genetic testing for cancer. Basically, I wrote some of the first stuff to tell you post-cancer follow-up for leukemia and lymphoma, for AML and ALL. And yeah, so definitely, I know exactly what you're talking about, and the difficulty of like trying to get data and trying to get enough people for clinical trials is a really challenging feat, and it's challenging both for patients because they have to go through this system while they're already kind of suffering, and also for people trying to help and build the data and make fixes because there's always a lag between when the resources come available and when people are able to use them. So having that education that helps educate people faster and promote better networks is amazing. Thank you so much for all your work, Matteo. Wonderful to see you again.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you
care.
for having me.
I love the memes too. Great job. Why spaghetti?
Yeah. I think we have to take it lightly because otherwise you get too serious about the bear market, right?
Yeah.
You have a laugh. Okay, thanks for having me, MetaFest. It's always a pleasure. It's always nice to hook up with you at conferences, especially when finally we can grab a beer or have a coffee together. I'll see you in Paris, maybe, or if Berlin, or hopefully Bogota.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I'll let you know when I'm on that side of the world. Ciao.
Bye bye. Ciao, ciao.